Hi, everyone, and welcome to Vikings Training Camp Live. We are live at TCO Stadium. Jim Rich, along with Ahmad Hicks, and our very special guest, former Viking great running back, Ricky Young. Ricky, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
He was out signing autographs today. Your line was longer than Chuck's. That's what I thought.
I did too.
Of course, Ricky Young and Chuck Foreman played together here with the Vikings for several seasons back in the day, and you hold the team record. You took it from Chuck, 88 career receptions, breaking his record. How did that sit with him?
I don't know. Chuck was a team player, I think. No. It's okay. We go back a long ways, and I knew Chuck before I came here to play. So we've been pretty good friends for a long time. So it was okay. I mean, we won games. We lost some games, but all in all, we were all pretty happy with our standings in the community with Jerry Burns.
Oh, yeah. He made sure the running backs were well used with his team.
Yeah, Ricky, for the longest, you were on the inside looking out. You were a part of the team. Now you're on the outside looking in at this new Minnesota Vikings roster. What do you think of the landscape of it? What are you most excited to see from this team this season?
Well, as we were talking earlier, it all goes back to me, and I'm just honest about you got to have line play, offense and defensive line. You can bring anybody you want. If you ain't moving people and getting them out of the way, it's tough to be a running back, and I could tell you that firsthand. And at the same token, the defensive line, I love the scheme with the defensive coordinator they got here now. So I'm looking for some good things for the defense right this year, and hopefully the offense can catch up and catch up with the defense, because I do think the defense is going to play well this year.
Yeah, a lot of things going on here we'll get to in this half hour, including the Vikings holding their first padded practice. We'll give you a glimpse of what's going on over there on the big fields. And also the Vikings made a signing today. We'll get into that as well. But let's first talk about J.J. McCarthy. Everybody wants to know, how's J.J. doing? That's the question we get everywhere we go. But I asked you before we started, Ricky, about the fact that what does he have to comprehend being a rookie and playing in the National Football League? What are some of the hurdles that he has to overcome?
Well, it's just a long, drawn-out learning process, and there's no other way to go through it except you just trial and error, man. You can teach and teach and teach, but until you get out on the field and you see one of these guys that the coach tell you, hey, when this guy is open, you get the ball to him, you pump and hold that ball out, and that guy hits you in the ear hole, that comes with experience. You'll know not to hold the ball again. So that's the only way. It's just reps, and you learn how to play the game.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because normally when the players get a break for summer break right before training camp picks up, they all get out of town, go somewhere warm, have a little bit of fun. But J.J. McCarthy said he had a hard time regurgitating the plays to the offense during OTA, so he decided to stay in Minnesota so he could learn the offense, get familiar with it. And he said now in training camp he's spitting it out like he's been around for years to come. So if you're a running back now on this team and you have a rookie quarterback stepping into the offense and he's spitting out the plays like he's been here for 3 years, how confident does that make you in his ability?
Well, it makes you feel good. That's like, and then if he can audible into plays that can really help your offense out in certain tight situations when the coach is not there to tell him what to do, then that's it, a big feather in his hat. So it's just, like I said, it's a learning curve that you cannot believe at that position. So I'm sure that's why these guys are getting paid a lot of money now. So it's like you got to learn a lot, and you got to comprehend it, and you got to relay it to your people, and they got to feel confident in you that you're going to get it done. So it's just it's something that you don't really know until you get down there, man. You put that helmet on and start moving, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
All right, now the Vikings also, they have a bridge quarterback, because that's the new term in the NFL that people like to use for Sam Darnold. He's here on a one-year prove-it deal. How does he handle this? Because he knows that everybody says McCarthy's going to be the guy here eventually. How does he kind of run the team? Well, he's in that seat, and he probably doesn't want to give it up, because this could be his last kick at the can, because he's been around the league for a while. I think this is 5-6 years down the road for Darnold.
Oh yeah, and I would say he's got a 1 year, $10 million contract. I say it's $1 million by million as to how he's better play. He's going to play. You got to play smart, and I'm sure he wants to. If you That is not like baseball or basketball. You play football, you play it because that's what you want to do. Because in baseball, you can kind of play for your parents. Stuff. In basketball, you don't get hit that much. Every play you get hit in football, so you got to be willing to do that for yourself, and then somebody else, to compliment somebody else. But it's he's got an uphill battle, but at least he's been in the league for 5 or 6 years, and he
Right.
does have some concept. And I don't know if he has a relationship with the head coach here, but it gets a little bit easier as you go along. You get a little older and you get a little wiser, and he's ahead of McCarthy because he just he don't really know the speed in which the game is, and Donald should know the speed at which the game comes at you now.
Yeah, I think the real interesting thing will be training camp. I'm not training camp, but the preseason games. I don't expect Sam Darnold to get a lot of reps, if any, because Kirk Cousins, the QB1, didn't play in the preseason in the previous year. So I think it'll be J.J. McCarthy's turn, and I think the Vikings have to figure out what they have and the new number 9 here in town, because will it be Nick Mullins backing up, Sam Darnold to start the season, or will it be your first-round draft quarterback? And I think they want him to be the backup, and he's certainly showing flashes right now. That's what all the articles are saying. That's what all the reports from practices are saying, and that's what we kind of see in the couple of minutes that we get to watch him take part in the drill.
Right.
The first couple of days, a lot of check-down passes, what you expect from young quarterbacks, because everything's flying around, where the second 2, 3, 4 days out there, he was letting it fly, kind of letting some deep balls get down the field, ripping it with accuracy, showing off that arm strength. So I think he's getting more comfortable as we're progressing, but kind of like Ricky said, you really don't know until your helmet is on, you're playing underneath the bright lights, and, you're having to lead 10 other guys in that huddle.
Ricky, what do you think of the way they approach training camp now and these preseason games? I think you
Give us
guys,
your honest assessment.
you guys used to have to play, I think it was 5 or 6 games some years, right?
I was just telling Trace on the moment, it was 30 days in Mankato. She goes, God, we got another 6 days. I'm like, we were down there for 30 days. When you left Mankato, you were on the team. And I'm telling you, we tackled the first day, and you get hit. And it's kind of some, when you get hit and you see the little spots going across your face, and can you get up and go back and keep playing or not? I don't think they have that. They don't really do that nowadays, and it's a good reason for it. I mean, we see a lot of people hurt and people that didn't play anymore after that. But it is an indication of what you got and who you got and who you can count on. When a guy gets hit and blindsided, and we tackle hard in practice, and he gets up and say, "That's okay, I'll be okay." And you can count on a guy like that. But you don't have a chance to do that now.
Right.
Nobody, you don't even run past the quarterback. When you get through the line, you just stop and let him hit you in the head with the ball. You don't get close to him. And that's the reason for that. It's $100-200 million investment. So, and it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, I kind of relate to it, try to relate to it. I told, if I was still playing, there wouldn't be no such thing as me having a concussion. I'd play 2 years and I'd be gone. What money they pay now? 2 years, I'd be out.
Say
I don't know how you live on $15 million. Let me show you. Give me I can show you how.
Yeah, you know what? I could do this job for 2 years, $15 million too.
Get behind
You know
me.
what? I like your thinking.
Well, let me
I
ask
like
you a
your
question.
thinking.
You talked about being available, and obviously, in your guys' heyday, probably some injuries occurred during training camp. Nowadays, not
You know
so
what?
much.
He never missed a game, right?
Because you
Yeah.
guys were
You
tough.
never missed a game.
No, didn't miss a game.
Because you had to practice and go through training camp. Whereas nowadays, these guys don't necessarily, and for fans at home who really don't understand what Ricky's talking about, grueling days back in the day for training camp, 2-a-days, I'm guessing, 3-a-days on some days. Sometimes these guys don't even have 3-hour practices nowadays. They have walkthroughs for the first practice, then they have a padded practice for 2 hours and 15 minutes where there's breaks for water when it's hot outside, or if it's too rainy or something, they go inside. So very privileged nowadays. But I want to talk about the guys that are going to be around, who may not be around. Justin Jefferson is wide receiver 1, Ricky, but Jordan Addison faced some offseason troubles, so he may not be around to start the season. What does that say about the young guys on the roster and how they prepare in the training camp to get ready to step into a role that maybe they're not familiar with?
Well, hey, you know what? You might only get one chance at it, man. So if it's something you really want and that's what you desire to do, you better go up and watch somebody and figure it out, because it's like, it's like just like that, it'd be past you. So, and I'm just thinking now, the days now, it's like, if they cut down to 2 preseason games, a lot of people made the teams by being on special teams now. And if
Right.
and if you get down to playing 2 preseason games a year, I don't know what's going to happen to the guys like a John Randall, somebody that don't get undrafted, that can come out and play, but just make special team plays, and you see the fire within him, and you figured out, okay, I can get this guy on the field. I can teach him how to play because he wants to play the game.
Right. Yeah, it's
And
going to be really
I
tough.
don't know where it's going. It's going to be tough, but hey.
Yeah, especially for guys like Jalen Naylor,
Right.
Trent Sherfield, Tristan Jackson. A lot of those guys will have to play special teams in order to make a roster spot, like Ricky was just talking about. These are the guys battling right now for wide receiver spots behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. But like we just said, Jordan Addison may not be here for the first 3 games of the season due to his off-field incidents. So that means that these 4 guys right here have a valuable opportunity to steal some reps and to find a permanent spot on the field. Ricky, have you ever gone through anything like that?
Absolutely. Catch the coach's eye when somebody's playing. Availability. You got to be available. And that's probably why I didn't miss the game. Like, hey, I didn't miss a game. Somebody take my job. It's like I took his job. What the hell am I doing? I'm not missing a game. I didn't miss a practice. But I said, yeah, Ricky can't get the note. I'm not leaving.
So that saying is true. The best ability is availability in the
you gotta be
NFL.
able to play. And I mean, you can't say it like that because I mean there are times when people are just injured. You know,
Right.
you got to be some luck into it, but you got to be able to play with some pain. I can remember playing with cracked ribs and broke nose and stuff like that. It's like, man, that's get in the game. Seriously, you think you're gonna come out of the game?
So how do you feel now, though? You went through all that. You played through all those injuries. How does your body feel now, though?
See, somebody asked me that about 3 months ago, and then my back went out. I hate to answer a question like that, man. I'm still hobbling now for that answering that damn question. But
Way to go, Mon. Way to go.
But hey, you know what? If I had to do it, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. I was very fortunate enough to play for some good coaches. I played for Bud Grant, and they appreciate it. So yeah, take some time. I said, no, I don't need no time off. So it's like I said, you got to be available though. It's like they got to know what you can do, who they can count on, and where you're going to come from. And that's why, like you said, the young receivers, you got to be out there, make some plays out in practice, man. When you got that time, and the coach is kind of like, I saw him do that, maybe, and then you do special team, and you make the team. I remember Leo Lewis came out with the team. He got released like 3 different times.
Oh, yeah.
Finally made the team. You just never know what you got, man. You cannot judge what's in a guy's heart when you get him on the field.
Yep, and that's the thing. And then I think Bud's slogan was, "You can't make the club if you're in the tub." Yes,
I've heard that one before, too.
He was sincere with that too, boy. Yeah.
Yeah, he did not like people missing practice or missing games. That was not an attribute that he enjoyed.
He passed it right over. Yeah.
So, Ricky, can I ask you a question? Because you're a running back, you played this spot. What do you think about the Vikings running back depth, especially Aaron Jones coming over from Green Bay?
Oh, boy, I tell you what, that was probably one of the best moves they've made in a couple of years, I think. That kid, he can play. I mean, you know, he has a couple of injuries here and there, but you can tell he's a worker and he wants to play. Another kid they got,
Ty Chandler.
Ty Chandler. I think he could be a good quality back, too. So, you know, they got a couple of good running backs down there. But, again, it goes back to if these guys come off the ball and move these guys off the line, I think that they'll be more than adequate at the running back position.
Think you can
I
go
really
for
think so.
1,000 yards in this day and age?
Who, me?
You. In your prime.
I have to talk about how much check was it. Let me
Yeah,
look at
what is it per yard? Exactly. What is it per yard? 1 point what per yard?
Veterans minimum is 1.25 million.
Oh, hell yeah, I'm in. Let's go.
Oh, man. How about all these Packers that migrate to Minnesota? I mean, you've seen it for years.
Yeah.
Guys come across. Not very many Vikings have gone the other way.
I tell them, I ask them all the time. I ask people this all the time. And I'm not being rude. My son used to work at a bar in St. Louis Park. They had a Packer bar back then. I used to ask them all the time, like, hey, now, you're a smart guy. You got out of Green Bay. Would you move back? No. I said, you're smart. So you got the hell out. I ain't going back. So I believe that. No, I'm just kidding. I love Wisconsin.
We just
People are
gotta
good,
get our
good people over
digs
there. I have
in.
to mess with them, though.
Yep,
They're
we
good
gotta get
fans.
our
They got
digs in.
tremendous fans over there. And I believe that is the trend that's going right now. The running backs, that they got the 2 good running backs. I think they'll do more than an admirable job, I think.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, if you want to go down the money road, let's keep going down the money road. Christian Darrisaw. How about that contract?
113 million, 77 guarantee, 48 as signing.
I feel like I could cover kickoff. They may have to send my check over to Methodist Hospital, but I could go down there and cover some kickoff for like, what did you say, 1.5 minimum? Give me 2. I can do 3 plays.
million.
Yeah.
There it is. Look at that. $113 million for just 4 years.
That's
So
4 years.
if you cut that in half, we only have to last 2 seasons. You get more than your $14 million there out of that.
But
deal.
as a running back, how good does it make you feel knowing that you got your left tackle secured for the next 4 years, and Brian O'Neill happens to make a little bit more money than Derek? So how good would that make you feel knowing that your tackles are secured for 3 to 4 years to go?
I don't know about as good as that much they're paying me.
It's all back to the
What I
money.
get in the middle?
It's
What do
all
I
back
get
to
in
the
the
money.
middle? No, I'm
He's,
just
he's
kidding.
a big
I'm
guy. He
kidding.
gets in the way.
I'm
He
kidding.
does
Those
his
guys,
job.
they putting together a pretty solid offensive lineman. And I was talking with earlier today. I don't want to downplay that. It's the most important thing. And Jefferson, it starts with those guys up front, man, and that's where it starts and it ends right there. Guys don't get no credit for them doing anything, but you know what? You got to pay them.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know,
based
you gotta
on your
pay them.
experience, I want
Well,
to ask you.
that's what you had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your line was here forever.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and those guys
Oh, no,
knew
Fred,
each other
they
so
laid
well.
back. Oh yeah, they play, and that's what I'm saying. When you play the game, it's like like we had the same offensive coordinator, and I could go out and work out and get myself ready to play. I don't have to worry about coming and learning new plays. I know the playbook inside and out. I know what we're gonna do. We line up in certain formations, and the defense is gonna do this. And I knew before we snapped the ball what the hell we had to do and how we had to do it to get.
If you want to get paid, you got to talk into that.
Okay, let's talk up here.
But so what I wanted to ask you about the offensive line, you had continuity with your offensive line. Right now, the Vikings are going into their third year. We're pretty much the same offensive line. There is a little bit of competition at the guard position between Dalton Reisner, Blake Brandel, and Ed Ingram. But how together and how close-knit does that mean that – how does that translate to the field and success in terms of the offensive line if they haven't proven to be good enough statistically on paper with who they have? Do you think that continuity makes you better year after year?
Without a doubt. There's nothing like practicing and being like in a foxhole with a guy you know what he can and can't do, and you can count on him. It's like anything else. It's like being married or going out on a date, and it's like I know what the wife likes. I know what she can cook, what she can't do. I don't know what she's doing. So, you go back to the sure thing. So you go to the sure thing. And I'm just telling you, I just got truth now. You can listen to me. You've got there's nothing like continuity. Promise you that. I knew all those guys' weaknesses, Tim Irwin and Wes Hamilton. I knew Mick Tingoff. I knew all those guys, what they could do and couldn't do. And because I appreciated them so much and the sacrifices that they made of trying to, exercise me to make my play. So it was a good deal. And I will never, ever not understand why, the continuity. If you can keep a good offensive lineman, I'd take him over a good wide receiver.
So you don't think they need to go out and go get a high-dollar, proven interior offensive lineman? You think they just stick with what they have because they've been together?
Yeah, certain positions you got to draft and make your people, get your coach and make them do how you want them to play. Quarterback, offensive line, and your linebackers, and you got to draft those guys. Look at Pittsburgh. They draft guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and every year they got people that's all pro you never heard of. They trade them 4 or 5 years, and they wind up with 2 first-round picks. There's certain things you got to do, certain positions that you've got to be able to go out, draft people, and you put them in. This is how I want you to play. This is how you're going to play. This is how we're going to do this deal.
All right. Ricky, this has been an honor. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We'll work on trying to get you a deal.
Okay.
And we'll get you paid.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Vikings. The newest Viking just signed today. He's already on the practice field. We've got footage for you to share. Just how this secondary is shaping up with all the injuries. We'll discuss that and more as we continue here on Vikings Training Camp Live. Welcome back to Vikings Training Camp Live on Fox Local. I'm Jim Rich along with Ahmad Hicks, and the Vikings holding their first padded practice as we speak right now here at TCO. We are live here at TCO Stadium. Our thanks to Ricky Young, Vikings running back of the glory days, and boy, what a guy. What a special guy he is, Ahmad.
That was entertaining. That was very entertaining. He had a lot to say on camera, off the camera. He's very passionate about the purple. That's clear.
Yeah, and you know what, though? He makes sense. Even though the game has changed so much, and we talk about how training camp now is like basically going on a vacation versus what it used to be for these guys. But the premise of the game does not change.
Football
defense, offensive lines, that's where it starts.
Especially interior offensive lines. And that's the first thing he brought up off camera when we brought him in here. I said, how do you like this team? He said it all starts with the offensive and defensive line. And that's kind of something we've been saying, how the Detroit Lions kind of built their way back into being a contender in the NFC North. They had that blueprint, and I think that's something that the Vikings want to mimic here. That's why they went out and got a Dallas Turner. Like Ricky just said, that's why they kept that offensive line intact, because the longer you keep your offensive line intact, the better they play. That's what he said. He's the former NFL player, so I'm going with what Ricky said on that. But, an exciting time right now. We're still, day 6 of training camp, day 5 or 6 for training camp for the Minnesota Vikings. The patch just came on today for the first time, and as Josh Metellus, the safety, said, he said, the armor is on now, guys. The armor is here. So it's always a fun day for players when they get to throw those pads on.
Yeah, now the Vikings continue to have some issues with the roster, especially at the cornerback position and in the defensive back area. And so they went out, found a guy that Brian Flores coached a couple years in Miami, and this is what teams do. They go with people they know when they got to scramble and grab somebody off the street. So they brought in a new guy today, and he was already on the field.
Yeah, it felt bad for Parker Romo, the kicker, who was in a position battle with Will Reichert, the rookie out of Alabama, but they had to let him go to bring in Bobby McCain, who just recently played for the New York Giants last season, more mainly in a special teams reserve role, but he did play for Brian Flores, was a starting safety under him for 23 games. So Brian Flores talked about him earlier today, spoke glowingly of him, just talking about how familiar he is with his system, how he's a plug-and-play guy. He is more of a safety than a cornerback. So you're talking about adding another safety to an already deep safety room that has Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Theo Jackson, Josh Metellus, Lewis Seen. Got a lot of guys in the mix now. So certainly that room is going to be competitive. And if we all remember last year, the Vikings kept 5 safeties when they started the season. So I would not rule out them keeping 5 safeties. I know Bobby McCain was more of a training camp ad, so you have those numbers so you aren't wearing your other guys down. But it'll be really interesting to see if he does crack the 53-man roster, because like I said, Flores spoke about him earlier today, and he had some glowing things to say about his former player. Let's take a listen and see what he had to say.
I was with Bobby in Miami. Love Bobby. Bobby loves playing football. He's smart. He's physical. He's played multiple positions over the course of his career. A lot of familiarity. He's got leadership for sure. Communicates well. I was excited that we had an opportunity to get him, and I'm glad he's here. I love the versatility that the fact that he's played several positions. He'll start at safety, but you may see him in there at nickel. You may see him matched up on, certain guys. Even day one, there's, with a vet guy like that, there's just a conceptual understanding of things that any defense, does or can do, and he's already got a pretty good feel, and we'll see some of that today, but excited to have him.
I'd be excited to have him too if there's somebody that was in my system before, because like you said, in this day and age, you just kind of bring players like Bobby McCain, not to say off the street like he was on the street, but he's probably sitting at home on his couch chilling, not even thinking about football. Then you bring him in and a guy has to pick up a whole 125-page plus playbook, whereas he's familiar with Brian Flores' thinking. And I remember what Josh Metellus said to him and Harrison Smith. They said, "You're dressed out already?" You're already out here, and they're just like, you normally guys get an acclimation day where it's like, all right, let me come out here, shorts and a jersey, let's learn the playbook, see how you guys practice. It's like, no, I know the system, I'm out here, let's go, because the only way I can play is if, I get out there on the practice field.
Well, and that's one of the more important things, and I'm sure Flores, said, hey, we need more bodies over here.
For sure.
I got a guy, gave Kwesi his number and said, here, call him. I bet you can get him to show up. And he flew in overnight and is already out on the practice field today. But this secondary, without Blackman now, and Lewis Seen, we're still kind of trying to figure out what he is, what he's doing. We haven't seen him do a lot out here at camp. We won't know until we see these preseason games, and really we won't know until we get into the regular season. But what do you think of this secondary right now? What bodies are out here that you've seen that you like?
I just try and think about who's available, Jim. Like, when you talk about all the injuries, and the tragedies that have happened, Kyrie Jackson before the season, then the very first day, Mekhi Blackman tears his ACL, and then Shaq Griffin goes down the second day after that. You're talking about a depleted secondary. So this is who they have remaining. Only one guy was a starter last year. Well, two guys, Caleb Evans and Byron Murphy Jr. But as you all remember, Caleb Evans was benched towards the end of last season.
Right.
That's when Mekhi Blackman stepped in. That's when Andrew Booth stepped in when Mekhi Blackman got injured. So right now they had to bring back Duke Shelley after training camp started. He's familiar with this. I won't say familiar with the Flores defense, but he's familiar with the way the Vikings do things. A.J. Green was just brought over from Cleveland, where he spent the last 3 years. I don't know a ton about him, but I do know that I watched him at practice the other day go up against the ones. He had a press coverage against Justin Jefferson. 5 seconds later, Justin Jefferson was celebrating a touchdown. And so I don't know if you want him to be your starting cornerback. Granted, Justin Jefferson will do that to anybody that's guarding him. But like I said, the only guy with experience on this list right now that you guys are looking at is Byron Murphy. That's the only guy with experience, and that is expected to start for the Minnesota Vikings. That means guys like Andrew Booth, former high draft pick, Caleb Evans, a guy who started a lot of games last season. They're going to have to prove their worth. If they're not going to prove their worth, the Vikings are going to have to go get some other guys that can.
Well, here's I think the most intriguing piece is a Caleb.
Yeah.
I think that he has the size, he has the speed, but it's not clicking here yet, right? We saw some last year where there were balls that he could have gone up to get. Instead, he waited for the ball to come down, and the receiver would go get it over top of him. So I think if you're looking for a piece that could be the guy that could emerge and the light goes on and all of a sudden he becomes a real steadying influence on that back end, I think Caleb is that guy.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and doubt Caleb Evans, and I will just speak defensively for him. Like, playing cornerback, I think, is the second hardest position.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that all the pieces there seem to be there for him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Jim, mentally, that spot is so hard because you're tasked with guarding some of the fastest players in the National Football League, and you can't touch them outside of 3 yards.
Right.
And then, not to mention, they're tracking the ball 40 yards down the field. You're tracking them, and then you have a split second to look up, track the ball, try and make a deflection. So it's an extremely hard job. Yes, he does have all the pieces, but kind of you've seen his body of work the last couple of years, and I think what you see with the Caleb is what you will get. I know the players that kind of take that next big step are the ones who are not thinking anymore, playing freely, not in their heads, and that's kind of hard to do when you're in his position because later in the season they had such a quick trigger with the Caleb, when he made a mistake, and that will probably linger for him. It's hard to play freely when if you make one mistake, you may be getting pulled. So I honestly, no knocking against a Caleb Evans. I think the best idea or the best key moving forward for the Vikings is to bring in a veteran cornerback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll see where it goes. We have much more here, coverage coming from training camp on our news, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10.
All day.
All day. Yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow live at 3 o'clock as well. Again, our thanks to Ricky Young for stopping by. Such a treasure. If you get a chance to get his autograph out here at training camp, please do it. He is a great guy. For Ahmad Hicks, I'm Jim Rich. We'll see you tomorrow at 3.